Hey everyone, I hope you had a great day. Today we are looking at some new malicious compliance stories. I hope you enjoy them. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps. And now let's start with the first story, shall we? The first story is called Don't Call Me in My Time of Work. A few years ago I had a 9-to-5 salary job with overtime pay. I'm living in Europe and in my country this is the standard. The job was okay and the colleagues and the working environment were nice. Even my boss was competent and nice. My office had a fluid attendance where we only had to be there during the core times, 10 AM to 2 PM. But we could work whenever we wanted to, as long as we did our 38.5 hours per week. Me not being a morning person led to me regularly coming in shortly before 10 AM, therefore I had to stay later. No problem, because during the core time I still could talk about important things with the others, and in the evening I just wrote emails. I always did my work and got no complaints. My boss on the other hand was a lark and was there at 7:45 sharp every day. One of my jobs was being an assistant to her for many little things. But it had clear limitations, so it was more like general assistance to my small department. And even though she knew I would come in to be ready to work at 10 AM, she called me several times a week at 9 AM on my way to work to talk about the plans for the day. Those calls would last between 15 and 25 minutes and were like a stand-up meeting. Only that she was drinking her coffee and I was not really awake yet. No worries, I use public transports. She started with this only after I was several months in, and it got worse over time. To the point that she called me every single day on my way to work, while I actually wanted to read my books and slowly ease myself into a working mode. It got so bad that I always wore my headset, so my arm wouldn't get tired while phoning. Over the months I tried several times to raise her awareness that I did not actually like this and that it maybe could wait until I got there. But she never understood and calls them just a job fix. Maybe I was too friendly about it, but I learned from experience with previous bosses that they are not happy about criticism. When I tried to leave a little earlier because of the extra time in the morning, she got wind of that. She told me to work my full hours, because those job fixes were just phone calls. Then I tried to roll my cadaver out of bed earlier, so the call at 9 AM would count as work time. But I was groggy all day and it hurt my productivity. And I swear to God, after a week she called me even earlier, again on my way to work. When I tried to send her to the mailbox, she called me several times. As if it was an emergency, just to talk about the plans of the day and mainly her agenda, and some to-dos for me too, which I already knew about. I just gave up and it still wrecked my nerves. Until this one day. I had an actual important question that could not wait, but she already was gone for the day. I wrote an email, she did not answer for an hour, and then I once called her in her time off, because this thing really needed to be done on that day. It was quite short, but she ended the call with, "Just for the future, I don't like to be called during my time off, so please ask me while I'm still at work." That was it. From that day on, I wrote up those calls as working time. We logged our time in Excel sheets I had to convert into the appropriate salary forms at the end of the month, so she did not see them. I had an hour a week overtime extra, so at least I got paid for that. Then, at the end of the next month, I had several days on which I worked longer than the legally allowed maximum work hours per day. I filled out the forms at the end of the month, having several days in red, and sent them to Human Resources. They knew this was a problem, because the fines are quite hefty if the Bureau of Finance saw that. First they asked me what those irregular times each morning were and told me to answer my emails in the office, so this would not happen again. When I told them what those weird times were and what I tried, they became very polite and ended the call pretty soon. During the call on the next morning she even mentioned her meeting with Human Resources. But she guessed it was just about some new laws. She came back from the meeting, red in the face. HR seemed to have ripped her a new one. She sheepishly asked me if those calls were really such a hassle for me. And she finally listened when I told her that I'm quite groggy in the morning and that an email would suffice because I generally know my to-dos. If she wanted a job fix, I would happily do so while being at work and having coffee too. To end this on a happy note, We got along nicely after that, and I could talk a little bit more open with her. She still liked her Joe fixes, but we did them at 10 AM when I had arrived at work and was actually awake. The next story is called That's My Boss. Back from 2012 to 2015, I worked as a building supervisor with 7 buildings I took care of. I also had a side job as a contractor to paint any apartments that needed it. I only did this part-time because of other duties from my buildings. If I didn't have time for painting, my employer would hire outside workers. I had been a painter for about 8 years by this time and did a very good job. I wanted everything perfect. At the time, my son was only 2 years old and I had him with me for 2 weeks. I had other building supervisors who were taking care of my buildings for my 2 weeks off. My boy started talking really early, and by 2 he could speak quite clearly. He didn't make much sense, but you could understand every word he said. I got a call from one of my tenants, angrily telling me that I must come to her place to paint her living room. Her grandkids colored all over the walls with Sharpies, and she has company coming, and would be totally embarrassed if they saw her walls. I kindly told her that I'm on my 2-week vacation and can't help. She started screaming into the phone, telling me it's my job. And I have to do this or she won't pay rent next month. I told her to call the building owners and explain that to them, and that they have 3 other painters on call. She did not want to hear that. So I told her that my painting and landlord status were 2 separate jobs and I'm on a 2-week vacation from both. She hung up and called the building owner. That owner called me after that, asking for my side. I told her and she just laughed about it and said if she calls back, just have fun. But she knows better than to threaten to hold the rent back, because I warned her if she didn't pay, she couldn't stay. I miss that woman. Less than 5 minutes later, I got the call I was expecting from the crazy tenant. She tried telling me the owner said I had to be there by tonight to get it done immediately. I laughed and told her I already talked to Tina and that I'm still on vacation. That's when she said she meant my boss from painting. Malicious compliance activated. I said he's right here beside me. I'll put you on speaker so we can all straighten this out together. So I put the phone on speaker and told my son that he is wanted on the phone. He loved talking on the phone. He didn't listen to you, just told you all about what's going on with his day. She couldn't be rude to our toddler, so after a few minutes of him chattering away, I picked up the phone and took it off speaker. This set my little man into a freak out. I said into the phone, "That's my boss. By the sounds of him right now, it doesn't look like I can make it tonight." She just hung up. I didn't get another call from her. I had to call my mom to settle him down again. My mother loves all the kids and would sit on the phone with any of her 10 grandkids for hours and laugh every second. The third story is called Make Up Your Mind. I work in automation for a business change department for a medium-sized company here in the UK. I improve manual boring processes by essentially getting robots to do them instead. My previous role is now being filled by a young lad that is now having more and more tasks added into his already huge workload. His manager is a Karen. She has recently given him a huge monotonous task to do, as he is the only team member not working from home and it needs to be done in office. The guy is a really nice but shy type that just shuts up and works. And so Karen is keen to take advantage. When he told me that he's having to do this, I spent a day building an automation that can do the task for him and save about an hour and a half per day. I showed this to his manager also for future reference. She said, "What do you think you are doing? You really should be running this by management before you implement anything new like this." Bearing in mind that this doesn't change anything in the process and just makes this poor kid's life easier with the same result. Sure, no problem, I say. I then write a very long and detailed email explaining how the automation works. I CC'd all the necessary management and apologized that I did not let them know and had to in accordance with Karen. I apologized for not running it by her and explained the production of this was swift. All the managers praised me for being proactive, and Karen responds to all that I never have to apologize for making life easier for staff and helping our customers. This woman really doesn't know what she wants. The last story is called Use the Closest Available Printer. This story goes back to when a friend and I started a fledgling department at a mid-major US manufacturer. The year was 2008 and I was keen to start a department to create a new sales channel. I was starting to buy more and more as a customer through this channel and saw it as the future of e-commerce. The sales channel and department was Amazon. Our business saw slow growth at first, as we were mainly B2B. Amazon was not used nearly as much for business purchases at the time. But within short order, the orders were starting. The entire Amazon department, 2.5 guys, shared one printer at the time. We were not a priority for just about anything back then, which included resources, manpower and tech support. When the printer went down, we could be in a cycle of days trying to get tech support on it. The expedient way of getting tech support to do anything was to talk to effectively the day-to-day chief officer and founder's son, Jim. Jim was nice enough, but he was heavy into legacy merchant and client relationships. So he didn't throw any more support behind the newfangled Amazon than his father would have. Wednesday comes and the Amazon printer goes down. Every order needs a packing slip printed, a sales order, purchase order when applicable, job notes and so on. Probably 8 sheets per order. We tried going through the in-house tech support ticket system the first couple of days, but the job just kept being marked as complete. I have no idea whether that was a system error or intentional. We tried making a ticket about the ticket, but it was no use. IT was majorly standoffish about using their perfect system, so going to them to sort it out in person when I was not their boss would be useless. Come Friday, we appealed to Jim directly to pressure IT to act like they work for us too. This wasn't such a big deal, as Jim was actually right on the other side of the wall from us. Every time I'd come in, Jim would be about to start something important. No idea if it was conference calls or cruise plans. He worked hard, but took a lot of time off per year. Finally, Jim snapped. If your printer is not working, just print on the closest available printer. IT will get to it when they can. Now, in another situation, I would let this comment slide. But we were beyond swamped and I was in no mood, so malicious compliance activated. I don't know what Jim was thinking. But technically, the closest available printer to us was directly on the other side of the wall. Jim's printer. It was a glorious behemoth, a major overkill for one person printing in a corporate office. Blazing fast duplex, full color, the works. It was super loud and distracting anytime you printed on it. Which was fine, as he almost never printed, as he was more of an ideas man than someone who did much order entry. His assistant would print out things for him a few times a day, but he was not prepared for Monday. Our orders would build up all weekend, and so Monday was a killer. At the time, we did way too much direct fulfillment rather than seeing the light and using Fulfilled by Amazon. This meant that on Monday we would print something like 300 to 500 orders. These were entered manually at the time. So the process would be print packing slip, print sales order, print purchase order, print notes, go to the next order. Jim's printer was a champ. Every time we need to print, over 1000 times total that day, it would make super loud noises and spit out the 2 pages at warp speed. This printing on Mondays would go on all day long. We also had runners coming in every few minutes to take the orders and dispatch them to shipping or production. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes, Jim finally broke down. He accosted us with his righteous indignation at us using an executive printer. We did the malicious compliance thing and reminded him he advised us to use the closest available printer. He meant the one across the hall. We reminded him that the wall was thinner than the hall. IT was there 5 minutes later. They did the ritual, turning it off and on again, pressing 2 buttons, and told us we were good to go. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.